Yo, what is up, YouTube? I hope you guys are doing fantastic today. Today, I'm bringing you guys a video for the best starter for every support. It's going to be almost all the Guardians in this tab except Cthulhu and Yorm. I'm going to throw in her Chorus, Fenrir, Serket. And I'm just going to kind of walk you through the three main starters, Warflag, Sentinels, and Benevolence, and which one this god should buy, and then which one should you upgrade into. I'll give you the best, and then I'll give you like options too, because obviously you can kind of use all of them for each of these gods. But we'll start with Ares. The best starter for Ares is Sentinels, and then it is Warflag, and then it is Benevolence. If you're playing Ares, you don't really care for Benevolence. You want to stomp this early game, which is what these two allow you to do. Warflag is a little bit more aggressive. Sentinels is safer, but I think better still. The upgrades also for Warflag are just so lacking that you kind of need to abuse this early game, and then once you hit 17, if the enemy has an Embrace, a Boon, or a Compassion, they're just going to be kind of doing a little bit more than you. One thing before we carry any farther: never, ever build Spartan Flag. I think it is the worst, by far, upgraded support starter. It is so bad. 10% power is near irrelevant for every god in the game except like a book-stacked Cuckoo who gets 1300 power instead of 1150. So just never ever build Spartan Flag. Go War Banner if you're gonna go the War Flag. Like I said, Sentinel's the best, War Flag second, Benevolence third. Most games, I think Ares is a little bit better off with Sentinel's Embrace. However, I do think he uses Boon well if it's a comp where you feel like you being grouped is not as good as you being kind of alone or with one other person. If you're with one other person and you need to kind of heal off waves and push objectives, like sometimes because Ares' damage is so high, you can pair him with an assassin when you're sieging, and he can kind of just tank the entire time. And then if somebody engages onto your assassin or onto you, you just kill that person. But I do think Sentinel's Embrace is a lot better than Boon. So Ares, Sentinels, and then Sentinel's Embrace. RDO. RDO is going to be somewhat the same. She's basically like an Ares, except I think she uses the Compassion in late game a little bit better than the War Flag. I think if you want to win the laning phase with RDO, Sentinel's Gift is the best. And then I think if you want to just play for the late game and play for that Compassion in the late game, Benevolence is fine. Warflag just isn't really a good item for her because Sentinel's Gift kind of gives her more lane winning potential than the Warflag does. And she has these upgrades that are better. She's kind of the same thing as Ares, where you can pair her with the jungler so you can use the Boon's healing. But I do think that Sentinel's Embrace is slightly better most of the time. I am a fan of the Boon Goon, but I think RDO is going to be better off with Sentinel's Embrace. Next up, we got Athena. And Athena doesn't change, really. She is basically like Ares again, where the laning phase is pretty important. She wants to get ahead, and then she wants to rotate and kind of use her global pressure, her just dash taunt, and her actually pretty good damage. Next is Warflag. I think Warflag is still fine. She actually uses the War Banner pretty well because she can kind of stack the wave and then dash taunt and force a fight, and then play off the next wave. If she gets beads out one, she can wait for the next wave, get full stacks with the War Banner, and then dash taunt again. And you actually heal off of it, which a lot of people don't think, or they don't know. So that is just something you can use also. She's just not really a Compassion user. She's a god that wants to soak damage. And if she's not able to soak as much damage as she should possibly be able to do, she'll just die a lot quicker. She's actually a very, very good Sentinel's Boon god because she's a god you want to dash taunt. You're going to take a little bit of poke. You're going to give out a little bit of poke. You're going to pull actives. Then you're going to back up and you're going to want to heal with the Sentinel's Boon. So I think she's a Boon Goon. Next up is Bacchus. And this one should not be surprising at all. Sentinels, Warflag, Benevolence. You'll see, I don't know why, but all like the A and higher tier god, or like higher in the alphabet gods, are like Sentinels gods. And then the some towards the bottom are the Benevolence gods. I don't know why it works out like that. It just does. Kind of the same thing as Ares. You really don't have to talk about this one too much. You don't really want the Compassion. You want to win the laning phase because you don't want to be taking damage with Compassion. And then Bacchus has actually got a pretty solid laning phase. Warflag isn't bad. The War Banner is okay, but I think by far Sentinel's Gift is what just Bacchus should do. And I think Embrace and Boon are both fine. Like this one's pretty split 50-50 because you do take a lot of damage. You can kind of play like the Athena where you look for the engage, pull actives, and then back up and heal. Or you can kind of play around your team and look to burst the assassin. But I think Sentinel's Boon is slightly better with him. Next up, Cabrakan. And again, I don't know whose build this is. I'm not going to say it's mine, but it probably is. Next up, we got Sentinel's Gift to lead it off again. I don't know about this one. I'm pretty sure both of these are terrible again. We'll say Compassion is the worst just because I don't think you want Compassion again. This is a god that you want to be able to frontline and soak damage and be tanky. Warflag also still not very good, but can be used as something again where you look to engage, back up, and to just abuse kind of like the attack speed, movement speed from Warflag. Again, you can use the Boon, you can use the Embrace, but I think he has a better style with Boone, where he's diving, taking a little bit of poke, backing up and healing. All these gods are kind of the same, these front ones, so I'm just going to kind of leave it off there, but Boone is good on him. And this should probably be the last one where it's like 100%, or for at least for a while, 100% Sentinels. Again, you want to be tanky. You don't want to be taking that extra damage because you want to be as tanky as possible. War Flag is just not as good as Sentinels in the laning phase, and then getting to the late game, you want the Sentinel's Gift. And then you can use Boone, you can use Embrace, but I think Boone is slightly better. I think Boone is slightly better just because you want to be able to play aggressive, but he has healing in his kit, so sometimes the Embrace is a little bit better, but it just depends on how you want to play him. But I would lean a little bit towards Boone. Cthulhu, we're not doing Cthulhu. Fafnir. So this is one of the first ones that I think it's really actually close between all three. And this is my opinion. I think he is so good with Sentinel's Gift because it actually, like, his laning phase is good. When you have Sentinel's Gift, you have a very, very great laning phase because of how tanky you are, how many prots you have, how much healing you have. And then you're just going to be getting a buttload of gold. I don't want to say the F word because Mario's going to have to edit it out. You're welcome, Mario. Less work you got to do. But Sentinel's Gift, you just get, like, this uber tankiness super fast because you get more gold from Sentinels. You buy Benevolence to be worse in the laning phase, slightly less gold, but your level 17 is probably the best level 17 you can have because Compassion is just, like, a great item in the late game. And then Boone and Embrace are just, like, pretty good. And then War Flag, War Banners is pretty whatever. But yeah, I think Sentinel's Gift with Embrace or Boone, both are fine. I would probably lean a little bit towards Embrace because he doesn't have a ton of peeling. So just being able to play that front to back feels better with Embrace because you're just going to make your teammates tankier. But Boone is still very, very good. And then the Compassion, because I think having Compassion in the late game as a Fafnir makes it so they have to focus you, which is what Fafnir wants because of how tanky he is and how much damage he can soak by transforming and by detransforming and jumping away. Compassion is very good on him. And then I think War Banner is just barely the worst. He uses it in the laning phase pretty well. And then I think he uses War Banner in the late game very well. One of the few gods that does, but it's just not up to Sentinels and Benevolence. Next, we got Ganesh. And here's the first Benevolencer. And some of these that I say Benevolence is going to be kind of the same thing. It's going to be me regurgitating information, but I'm just going to tell you kind of how you want to play the gods and stuff. So if you skip to these parts, you'll know which ones I'm talking about. Benevolence, you're going to fall a little bit farther behind. Ganesh doesn't really care about that. He doesn't need items. He just wants to play for levels. That's his biggest thing, levels. And then that Compassion in the late game on top of his 2 and his good form of peel, that's what you want to play Ganesh for. You don't want Ganesh to be this, like, uber tank. You want him to be able to peel and set up for your team. And that's what Compassion will allow. While Sentinels is good and Embrace is still good and it makes your laning phase better, the Compassion aura is just going to be doing more than Embrace. Getting this Sentinels isn't going to give you this winning laning phase, but getting this Benevolence is not going to lose you the laning phase. So why don't you just play for it, have a little bit of a weaker early game, and then just dominate at 17. And then I think War Flag, probably wouldn't even put it on the list. Don't build War Flag on Ganesh. It's just not worth it. Geb, another Benevolencer. If I could regurgitate and say the exact same thing, like play it just like across for Ganesh, what I did with Geb, it would be the exact same thing. You're not going to lose the laning phase with Benevolence. You're not going to win it with Sentinels. So that's out of the question. Does Geb need levels or does he need items? He needs levels. Same as Ganesh. Does Geb want to be able to keep his teammates alive with this aura of 15% damage reduction? Yes. And so he wants to use Embrace also. But Compassion is just better than Embrace. So just build the Benevolence. Take the slightly worse mid game, completely worse early game, because it's not going to change. Geb's not winning the laning phase with the Sentinel's Gift. And then don't build War Flag on Geb. Don't build it. We're skipping Yorm. Capri. Capri is another Benevolencer. You can kind of see like where this is going. The really backliney gods are building Benevolence. The really frontliney, wannabe tanky gods are building Sentinels or War Flag. I think for the most part, War Flag is just not the best, and it's probably the worst of the three options just because of how good Compassion is. Same thing for Capri though. Does he care to be tanky? Yes. But is he a frontliner? No. So Compassion is fine. Does he care for levels or items? He cares for levels. Items are fine. I mean, he's not worse with items, but levels is what makes Capri so good. And this is the point where I think while Capri is a little bit more of a Benevolence user than Sentinels and more than Geb and Ganesh, Capri with Sentinels is still very strong because Capri's laning phase, surprisingly efficient. It's strong. It's good. He can kill. He's safe. And he can trade poke because of his shield along with the Sentinels. And then so that'll allow you to invade purples. Sentinels is usable on Capri if you feel like you need to play through your lane. However, if you don't, level 17, you're going to feel a lot better with Compassion than you are going to be with Embrace. And then just don't build Boone. If you're going to build Sentinels, just go into the Embrace. Oh, give me a second to think about this one. Kumba. I think, how can I word this? Kumba is in this little weird spot, niche area of not being great early, not being great mid, not being great late, but like he's not bad at any of those. Like if you look at most of the Guardians, it's like this is an early game god, this is a late game god, this is dominant the entire game, Yamoja. Like he is just average to below average everywhere. And I think you just kind of want the Sentinels to make your early game good to get to that mid game, because Kumba is actually pretty efficient and pretty good as a god if he can get a lead. He's very hard to deal with if he can get a lead. The problem is it's not easy to get a lead, and it is very, very easy to fall behind on him. And he is very, very bad if your team is falling behind, because you feel like you're just sitting there doing nothing as your team is getting one shot. Buy the Sentinels, try to win the laning phase. If you get ahead, you're going to be massive, you're going to be hard to deal with, and then you can build into either Boon or Embrace, because he'll use both like the Boon efficiency and the Embrace prots. And then don't build War Flag, don't build Benevolence. You want the Sentinels good because you want your laning phase as strong as possible. Kuzumbo, Sentinels. It's kind of the same thing as just those tanky gods at the beginning. You want the tankiness from Sentinels. You want to be able to win this laning phase. You want to be as tanky as possible late game. And I think Boon, he's probably the best Boon user because he's the best 1v1, 1v2, 2v2 god probably out of the supports. He wants to be able to get that healing and get extra gold to be able to get more items, because Kuzumbo level 20 with a Boon full build, that is a scary, scary support, because he can basically do anything he wants. He's very hard to kill. Unless you have like a Nem, Sunder, Scylla, he's not dying that quickly. He's going to be returning a lot of damage with his 2. He's going to be dashing you, resetting his cooldowns, dashing you again, wanting you, capping you, knocking you up, watery grave. Kuzumbo, late game is very, very hard to deal with. Build the Sentinels, go into Sentinels Boon on Kuzumbo. Sobek, we got another Sentinels user. Oh, I mean, this is nice. I don't have to talk about it too much because Sentinels is his best. Sentinels is his best. War Flag is his second. Benevolence is his third. Sobek wants to win that laning phase, which is not as strong as it used to be, but Sentinels still makes it pretty strong. Want to win that laning phase. Want to just get gold to be undealable with. Impossible to deal with. You just want to be impossible to deal with your tankiness, because Sobek's base damage is insanely high. So if you just get tankiness, get online, get the Sentinels online, you can build into either Boon or Embrace. I'd probably lean slightly towards Boon. I don't know necessarily why I had Embrace. Maybe I was just trying something. But being able to pluck and then back up and heal off of a wave is just a lot better than the few prots you're going to be giving to your teammates. So Sentinels, War Flag, Benevolence. Don't build Benevolence. You can build War Flag if you want, though. Sylvanas. I'm pretty sure some people are going to disagree with this part, but Sylvanas is a Sentinels user. I know I've seen SPL players building Benevolence on Sylvanas, because he's like more of that backliner god. If you get to that compassion spot, you're feeling really good. Sylvanas, when he gets ahead and he gets these items, he is actually doing good damage because his damage per level goes up a lot every time. You get the Sentinels, win the laning phase, get your gold online, get that Lotus online as quick as you can. If you're not building on Lotus on this god, you're actually trolling. Lotus Crown Sylvanas is the best combo in the game. Build your Lotus Crown, and then build either your Heartward, your Thebes, or your Bulwark. And then even if they go 4 physical, just go Lotus Sov. It's impossible to deal with Aura Sylvanas. Go the Sentinels. Compassion is fine. It's not bad, but it's just not great. And you want great, so build Sentinels. And then I would go into probably Embrace, just because you're playing them more onto your team. You're not really getting poked out too much of Sylvanas. You also have healing. Go Sentinels, Embrace. Terra. Terra is a Sentinels god, but she's very close to a Benevolence god too. It's kind of how you're playing Terra. Do you want to win that laning phase and play as a blink ulting bot? Yes. Sentinels. Do you want to, or do you not care as much about the laning phase and just be able to peel for your team and keep them alive? Go Benevolence. I do think she actually has one of the best mid games with the Sentinels, because if she can get some levels into, or some gold into some items and actually become very tanky, she gets a little extra power. She's also very hard to deal with. So I would lean slightly towards the Sentinel's gift. And then you can go either Boon or Embrace. I think I'd go Embrace just because she already has a little bit of healing. But I do think Boon is still very good on her. Because if you can get to level 20 and have full build, late game Terra is almost there, as Kuzumbo is one of the hardest gods to deal with, because she'll do a lot of damage and she'll do a lot of healing. Xingqian. Xingqian is Sentinel's god again. Probably a War Flag and then Benevolence. You want to win the laning phase. You want to get items online. You want to be as tanky as possible. You want to be able to dive and not take damage from your teammates taking damage. And you want to get to that just late game, because Xingqian's late game, very good. You literally just walk up to the ADC and one him. And then you're very hard to deal with because ADC's doing no damage. War Flag is fine, because I actually think he has a lot of kill potential in the laning phase if your ADC is going to be doing more than their ADC. If you have like an Izanami and on her, something that can actually like fight and trade in like to the enemy 2v2, War Flag feels very good, but I just think Sentinels edges it out a little bit. Yemoja. By far, most likely the best Benevolence user, but she's also very good with Sentinels, and she's very good with War Flag. Let's be real, it's Yemoja. Build whatever you want. You're going to be effective because you're Yemoja. I would just say Compassions are best because she doesn't care for the laning phase, and she also wants to keep her teammates alive. Sentinels is good because if she can get items online, she becomes very hard to deal with, and she does a lot of damage. And War Flag, she can actually get a lot of War Flag procs because of how fast she clears, and then her ranged autos. So literally anything you want on Yemoja, and you'll probably win. But that's my order. Last of the Guardians. Biggest Sentinels user there is. By far. Right here, by far. If you are playing Ymir and building Benevolence, you're trolling. If you're building War Flag, understandable. He actually has a lot of kill potential. He can get a lot of autos off. But I just think he's way, way, way better off with Sentinels. Because if Ymir can get those items, he does a lot of damage. He's very hard to deal with. I know you heard me say this a lot if you're watching the entire video. And if you are, thank you. You're my favorite. If you get those items on, you become very hard to deal with. Very tanky. And then in the late game, you can either go the Embrace or the Boon route, where you play more of a get a little poke, heal up, get that gold, get items online faster, or you can just get the Embrace and give you the prots to your teammates. Either is fine. Most of the Assassins and Warriors are going to be the same, so I'll probably this is just going to include all 4 of them, because all 4 of them are the same thing. You're not picking these gods to play for the late game. It's Sentinels, War Flag, Benevolence. Either Sentinel option is fine. I would probably go slightly towards Boon, because Assassins in the late game are good in their 5v5, but their 2v2 is incredibly strong. Incredibly strong. They have a lot of just built-in damage, a lot of tankiness, and then if you go one like hybrid item or one just damage item, you will do a lot of damage. You'll be able to solo people if they're not respecting your damage. War Flag is also good just because it helps your laning phase. It gives you a little extra pressure. It makes your late game and mid game a little bit worse, but it's still fine. And then Benevolence. Don't build Benevolence if you're playing an assassin or a warrior. Let me tweak that a teeny bit. Unless you're planning on building Animosity. Because I think if you play like an Amaterasu and you go like an Animosity, or Compassion, I think she's one of the few warriors that actually will use Benevolence pretty well because her laning phase isn't great and she actually has a really good late game. Feel free to go Benevolence on Ama or like a couple of these other assassins if you're planning on building just like full tank and then an Animosity. Some of these warriors, same thing. Like if you're playing a Bellona support like I did at the beginning of the year, or Cyrus, Erlang, something like that, Benevolence is fine. Just know your laning phase is a lot weaker, but your late game, if you get to that spot, will be stronger. And that is all I've got for you guys for this. What starter item would I get on all these supports? Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And if you're not, please subscribe. We eclipsed 5,000. We're almost at 5,500. So thank you guys for that. And I hope you guys liked the video. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Good night. Oh, wait. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day. See ya. Not good night, because it might be the morning. See ya.